Welcome to the Brew Shed. I'm Paul.
I'm Jono.
This is our very first episode of Beer Reactions.
And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be trying two different beers. I'm going to bring one. Paul doesn't know what beer I've got, and I don't know what beer he's got. And then we're going to be trying a home crafted beer.
Yeah. So, shall we do the unveil, Jono?
Shall we do the unveil?
Okay. Just bear in mind that neither of us knows what beers we brought along tonight.
You ready?
Okay, go.
Ooh, what we got there?
Ooh,
So,
what have you got then?
Right. I've brought for you to try today, Paul, a Loch Lomond Brewery Southern Summit American Pale
Do you
Ale.
want to show that one to the camera, Jono?
Yeah, I'll bring it over so you can see the label there. You won't be able to read all the small print.
Ah,
I will do that.
I've genuinely never seen that beer before. I'm really excited to try that.
Indeed.
Now, I happened to be working in Edinburgh this week, and I passed a little craft beer shop near Haymarket Station, and I came across this beer here.
I haven't got my readers.
It's called On and On and On, and it's by Paul's Brewing Company, and it's a Lactose IPA. I'll just show this to the camera.
Well, a lactose IPA. So does that mean it's gluten free?
No, it's got all the normal ingredients, but it has lactose is
lactose
added,
in it.
so that it gives that kind of milkshake type flavour.
Wow. So I'm expecting something a bit ice creamy.
It could well be a bit ice
Maybe
creamy.
from that.
Could well
Now
be.
then, the Loch Lomond beer. I mean, this is brewed in Alexandria, which is sort of on the banks of Loch Lomond. They're using Summit and Citra hops.
Okay.
Now, I would expect from that a sort of juicy, fruity, citrusy, hoppy beer, maybe.
Are they both American hops?
They are both
Okay.
both American hops, Citra. Well, yeah, definitely, yeah.
Hence
Yeah.
why it's an American pale ale.
American Pale Ale, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Right, what we're going to do, something else I want to mention as well. When you're pouring a beer, people often do this. Right?
Oh, I always do that.
Yeah, well,
Should you not do
there's,
that?
no, there's, well, it's a point that people often argue about as to whether you should tilt your glass or whether you shouldn't. If you go to places like Prague, in the Czech Republic, you will always find that you get a very decent sized head on top of a beer.
That's
Now
true.
they believe
That's true.
that you should pour a beer so that you get enough of a head, in other words, a few inches ahead,
Okay.
so that it's what you get a CO2 break, and they believe that when you get the CO2 break, it actually brings out all the flavour and the aroma. Whereas if you tilt, it doesn't. It's locked in inside the CO2.
Okay.
So should we do one way each?
Yeah. Well, let's hold it up so the camera can see it.
Right,
Let's see the
okay.
port.
So I think you can see that we're getting a good CO2 break there now in that beer.
Oh, it's good. Oh, that's got a really nice hoppy aroma. That's really fresh. It's almost a little bit grassy, that actually.
Yeah, grassy grapefruit.
Yeah. Oh gosh, and look at it's very, 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 very pale, isn't it?
Very, yeah.
There must be, I mean, I'm guessing that's got pale malt and lager malt in it.
Yeah,
probably.
I think it's probably got both.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually say what the ingredients for the malts are, just the hops. But looking at that, is it the Lovey Bond they call it? The colour? That is extremely pale.
What did you call it, John?
The Lovey Bond.
The Lovey.
Is that the
I've
one?
never
The
come
Lovey
across
Bond?
that before. Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Let's see how it
Right,
tastes.
let's taste.
Oh, that's really nice.
It's nice, yeah. It's got a citrusy flavour. It has got citrusy flavour. A little bit of grapefruit, also a bit of elderflower, I think, as well. And there's a bit of a hay sort of grassiness behind it. That I can imagine that would be very nice on a warm summer's day.
It's not warm and sunny here today, although it has been pretty sunny here today.
It has been a lot.
It's certainly not warm any longer, but I agree that would be absolutely delightful on a warm sunny day, I think.
Yeah, so that we've got the aroma there.
What percentage is it, John? How much alcohol is in it?
This one is, I don't think it's high, it's 4%.
Okay. So again, good to drink on a summer's day then,
good
isn't it?
drinkers, yeah.
You're not going to get too leathered on that. So it would be really good if anybody has had this beer before, if you could leave us some comments down below. Have you enjoyed this beer? Where can you get this beer in your local shop or in your local pub? That would be really good to know as well. But in terms of Loch Lomond Brewery, I've actually had one of their beers before, Bonnie Lassie I think it's called.
Oh, okay. That's the first one of theirs I've had, I think.
Which is, Bonnie Lassie's quite good. It's more of a kind of a sort of classic IPA, I would say.
Yeah.
It's a little bit darker than this, but this is definitely a bit summery and
nice.
goes, and certainly a lot hoppier I think than Bonnie Lassie.
It's very hoppy. And also in the comments let us know what beers you're currently trying. Tell us about those, because anything that we haven't tried, it'd be nice to see what you're currently enjoying, and we can see if we can get hold of it and review it on this page.
Great, okay.
That's nice.
Well, I think we're going to come back to this one, finish this off. I think we're going to move on to...
Do we need to do a mark out of 10, do you think?
Oh, should we do a mark out of 10 just now? Yeah, well, why not?
Yeah, indeed.
I think I'd probably give that a 7 out of 10 maybe.
Yeah, I think it's 7. Yeah, I agree.
Solid 7. 14 out of 20 for our very first beer, which is...
It's Loch Lomond Brewery's Southern Summit American Pale Ale.
Excellent. Well done, Loch Lomond Breweries. Let's put this one aside, will we? And we'll crack on with beer number 2.
Let's go for that then.
So just to remind you, beer number 2 is from Paul's Brew Company, and it's a lactose IPA, and it's called On and On and On. Now, Paul's Brew Company are a brew company from Mold in North Wales,
Okay.
and they've only been brewing since the beginning of 2018, so they're a very, very new brewery on the scene.
Pretty well then, aren't they?
Yeah, done really well. So they're a small team of 3 people, and their kind of ethos is to create hop-forward, modern styles of beer with an emphasis on freshness.
Right, okay.
Now, they package their beer only into kegs and only into cans, so they don't use bottles at all. Now, I'm guessing that's because cans keep things fresher than bottles do. Now, light comes into your bottle and can potentially spoil beers. That's why most beers come in brown bottles, I think.
Filters
some
out the
beers do
UV.
come in white, in see-through bottles.
That's true, but
Not many.
most of the books that you get on creating beer, home brewing, do suggest that you keep your beer in a brown bottle for that
That's
very
right.
reason,
That's
that
right.
the UV is filtered out, so
That's
it
right.
keeps your beer in better condition for longer.
That's right. And of course, this is a lactose IPA. Put this down here
Put that
for
one
now.
down that way.
This is a lactose IPA, so that means it has lactose sugar added to the wort.
Okay, and lactose does what?
Well,
exactly?
it adds a sweet milkshake-like flavour to the beer.
Really?
And lactose sugar is non-fermentable, so that means that when the yeast goes to work on the wort, that it doesn't eat the lactose sugar, which is why this beer should have a sweet flavour to it.
Okay. So
And
you'll keep the sweetness from the lactose, but the rest of the wort gets fermented as normal.
Indeed, that's absolutely right. And this is a very new style of beer, and was invented by a company called the Tired Hands Brewing Company in Pennsylvania in America in 2015. So it's only been around for 4 years.
Right.
So a very new style of beer. So in terms of ingredients, it does tell you on the can what's in here. It doesn't tell you what malt they use, but I'm guessing for an IPA that it would be pale malt and lager malt, probably, Jono.
I would imagine so, yeah. And obviously they're adding the lactose. At what stage in the boil do you think? I would suggest perhaps
My
halfway through the
understanding
boil.
is that it gets added to the wort as it comes out of the mash tun.
Right, okay.
So as it comes out of the mash tun, lactose is added and then the wort is boiled. That's my
And
understanding.
of course, if you know anybody or you are connected in any way with this brewery and you want to correct us on any of this, then please do leave it in the comments, because we would like to know more about it, particularly about the ingredients and
Yeah.
the process that you go through to actually create this beer.
And if you've made a lactose IPA at home, then again, let us know in the comments when you've added the lactose. That would be fantastic. So in terms of hops, this beer uses Citra, which is normally an aroma hop. It uses Simcoe, which is a hop variety I hadn't heard of. It's very popular in the US apparently as a bittering hop. And the third hop that's used in this beer is called Mosaic. Now again, that's a variety of hop I'd never heard of before. It's relatively new. It's only been available since 2012, and it can be used as either.
Is that an American hop?
I believe so, and I think it can be used as a bittering hop or an aroma hop.
Okay.
But what I was interested to note on this can was that it tells you what type of yeast is used. And
that's really unusual, because normally, even if you get ingredients on a bottle, it rarely tells you what yeast
that's
is
right.
in there.
That's right. And they used Saf Ale SO4, which is a yeast I tend to use most of the time in my own
I knew that
brewing.
already.
Yeah. So there you go. That's interesting. So in terms of expectations, I'm assuming that this is going to taste quite milky, quite milkshakey. I'm also thinking that it's going to have tropical flavours, such as pineapple, possibly tangerine, mango,
Yeah.
those sorts of flavours. So a bit like a kind of tropical milkshake.
Because you do get that with some of those new world hop varieties.
That's right, indeed.
Well, shall we give it a go?
Let's get pouring.
Indeed. Let's line the glasses up.
Okay, so I'm going to do this. What did you call it, John? The CO2
Give it a good
break?
CO2 break, so we get a good fizz on top of it, and then that brings out all the aroma and all the flavours as the CO2 breaks through the beer.
Okay.
Fantastic. I can smell that now. I can actually smell that now. That's incredible.
Wow, look at the colour of it. Wow.
That is so unusual. I don't know if you can see that, folks. I'm going to bring that closer to the camera so you can just see that. I wish you could smell that, actually. It's a shame there isn't such a thing as smell-o-vision, isn't it? But there you go.
Wow, that is. I've honestly, I've never seen anything like that before. The colour of that beer is exceptional. I mean, often you do get beers that are cloudy, and that's because they're wheat
proteins,
beers,
yeah, the wheat beers,
and
yeah.
so they've got yeast that's that's in the beer, and that's what causes them to. Well, of course, all beers have yeast in them, but the yeast is.
You sometimes get it's proteins that are left over from the boil, and it's basically they leave the protein break at the boil stage, so it doesn't break down the protein. So a lot of the beers that you get that have got the cloud, that sort of a look, it's usually just because they've left proteins in because they believe it adds a specific type of flavour to the beer. But there's something, it's interesting to talk about clarity of beer. Something you can get, a lot of people judge a beer on how clear it is. They'll hold a glass up and say, oh, it's so clear to see that beer, and you can see through it. But clarity doesn't necessarily mean quality in beer. You know, you can get the cheap supermarket's own brand Better Buy lager that's superbly clear. Yeah, very heavily filtered, superbly clear, but tastes of nothing. At the other end of the scales, you can get your Belgian Trappist beers, a lot of which look very similar to this, and they're just abundant with aroma and flavour. But this is just incredible.
In terms of aroma, I don't think I've ever
strong
smelled a beer that smells so strongly of tropical fruits.
As I said, when you were actually pouring it, as you were pouring it, just from that distance, I could smell that pineapple. Yeah. It smells pineapple-y
and mango-y, as you said. That is absolutely exceptional in terms of aroma. That's a fantastic job, Paul's Brew Company. Taste.
Unbelievable. That is so unusual a flavour. There is definitely a milky flavour there, but it's not an unpleasant. I'm not usually a lover of anything milky. I don't tend to have a lot of milk. I don't drink milk, but that has got something. There's a bitterness there. You get a sweetness to start off with.
Wow.
A sweetness, a citrusy fruitiness, and then afterwards it gives you this bitter punch.
It's much, much more bitter than I was expecting it to be.
It's very bitter. And that is, a lot of people might think that's unpleasant, but it's not with this particular beer, because you get that initial sweetness. That bitter punch is actually needed to counteract that sweetness in some way.
And actually, if you hold this beer in your mouth and just kind of swirl it around, on the back of your tongue you get that real milkiness. and then on the sides and the front of your tongue, the real bitter flavour hits you. It's a real juxtaposition of flavours, actually. The milkiness juxtaposed with the bitterness. I don't think I've tasted anything like that before.
And correct me if I'm wrong here. We've not talked about strength yet, but I'm tasting strength in that. I don't know how strong it is.
You're quite right, Jono.
That tastes strong to me.
That's the one thing I hadn't mentioned about this beer. I think it's 7.2%.
So take it easy if you try this one.
You don't want to have too many of these, do you?
No, I could see that going well with a meal. You know, it's a sort of beer that you could have with a meal. Something I'm thinking like a creamy Italian dish.
Well, it's funny because we talked earlier about the Southern Summit, the Loch Lomond Brewery beer, and saying that was a real summer session beer. Now this, tropical summer fruits, in terms of taste and aroma, but it certainly is not a summer session beer, is it, John?
You want to, well, you might want to, but I personally wouldn't want to sit outside drinking this. I would like to taste this with an Italian meal, creamy pasta dish or something like that. It's beautiful.
It's absolutely stunning.
I've tasted a lot of beers, but I've never tasted a beer like this before. It is singularly unique in my beer tasting experience. And other than say that it's got this bitterness behind the sweetness and that massive tropical citrusy punch that comes through as you smell it, it's unique.
It is.
Yeah.
So what about score then? I mean,
Scoring?
it's really difficult to compare this to the...
It's unlike any other
the
beer,
Loch
so it's
Lomond
difficult to
Brewery
compare it to another beer.
They're completely different beers. It's a bit like, comparing coffee and tea. They're different drinks. It's a bit like that.
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to give that a 9.
Wow.
I would like to qualify that to say that I don't think it's a beer that I would rush back to. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it and that it's unpleasant, but I prefer a less strong beer. I think, but that, because it's so unusual, it is a lovely tasting beer. It's got beautiful aroma about it.
I'm going to give that an 8 out of 10.
17.
That's a 17 out of 20. I think that's a very well done to Paul's Brew Company. Could you be our beer of the year for 2019? That is the score to beat.
Indeed, and it's certainly the beer of the week because it's already beaten the Loch Lomond one down by.
It has. Well done, Paul's Brew Company.
Should we move on to the...
Let's move on to our home crafted hero beer.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you for that, Paul. That's beautiful. Let's move on to the home crafted. I'm not going to say hero because this week we're going to try one of mine. So I'm not going to say home crafted hero because that'd be a bit smug.
What we are hoping that you guys out there in the interweb will get in touch with us and send us some of your own home crafted beer to try, because we are looking to find our home crafted hero of 2019. But until we get some beer coming in from you guys, we're going to try some of our own brew. Yeah. And the first beer we're trying is
well, let me introduce it to you.
It's one from Jono. What have you got for us, Jono?
This is my Penkiln Porter.
Oh, and a label and everything. Oh, that's fantastic.
So, just so you can have a look at that.
Jono's Artisan beer.
There you go. So, what we've got here is a traditional porter stout.
Right, okay.
It's got pale malt, it's got crystal malt, roasted barley, black malt, torrefied wheat, and dark muscovado sugar.
Ah, that's your secret weapon.
Well, it used to be secret, but it's not now because I've told everybody. As far as hop goes, we bitter it with Challenger and North Down, and then I get the aroma from Golding and Fuggles, and then post-boil hops. So when the temperature of the boil is reduced to about 75-80 degrees, I throw in about 10 grams of Challenger hops, and then they sit for a good hour. Before it's then drained off.
Okay.
So this it's very dark in colour. It looks very much like you'd expect a stout to look. So whether you're talking about Murphy's or Guinness, that type of look. Okay. But I think it's a lot more velvety in texture to Murphy's or Guinness.
What strength is it, John?
This one is 4.6%.
Okay.
So it's not too strong, but it's stronger than a session beer.
Yeah. Okay.
So shall we pop it and see?
Pop it. I'm wanting to hear that first, Jono. Oh.
There we go.
I hope you heard that at home. That made a really nice.
So you can see the CO2 coming out there. This is a bottle conditioned beer, which means that there was still live yeast in it when it went into the bottle, which means that yeast has continued to ferment just a little bit in there to create some effervescence and put some CO2 in there.
Brilliant.
So we'll try pouring it first.
Oh, lovely. Oh, that's fantastic. Wow, you can certainly see the colour there, John. It's really, really dark.
It's proper black, isn't it?
Yeah. Can you remember what percentage of chocolate malt you used in this?
It's actually black malt.
Black malt, sorry.
It's there's 33 grams of black malt.
Oh, so not much.
Not much at all.
It really doesn't take much black or chocolate malt to add colour and flavour to a beer.
I actually think it's the combination of the crystal malt and the roasted barley as well that gives it that darkness and colour, because both of those have been roasted to such an extent that they go almost black brown.
So we're just going to give that a bit of a... Oh.
See, to me that smells like bonfire toffee. Yeah,
I mean, the difference between this beer and the beers that we tried already today is that from a dark beer, there's no hoppy aroma, and that's to be expected. No. You wouldn't expect to. There's really very little in terms of aroma hops, and also I'm guessing it's not going to be as bitter as, for example, the milkshake IPA that we've just tried.
Definitely not. There's 3 hop stages have gone into this. There's been the original bittering hop, which is where you put your hops in at the start. I mean, you know all this, but I'm just for the people at home. You put hops in as it starts to get to the boil, and then about 10 minutes towards the end of the boil process, you put in some more hops, which gives it the aroma, and then I've put a few more in when it's cooled a little bit. So all you get from that is just aroma and a bit of flavour from the hops.
Fantastic. So in terms of aroma, I'm with you. The aroma is delicate, but there is a kind of bonfire toffee smell there for sure. Okay. Oh gosh, in terms of condition, that is absolutely superb. Sometimes it can be difficult for a homebrew or a home crafted beer to get that condition right, and certainly bottling a beer really helps to add a bit of sparkle to it. Sometimes beer that's bottled at home can be over conditioned, but the condition of this is absolutely spot on.
But what I'm trying to convey with a beer like this, and I think we mentioned it in the trailer video, is that it really is possible to create a top quality beer just at home. This hasn't taken anything magical. It's taken no scientific processes really, just a few decent ingredients and a little bit of time, and some basic home mashing equipment.
I tell you what, I mean, in terms of, I can really taste some toffee and some vanilla flavours in there.
Yeah,
it's absolutely exceptional. But it's lighter than Guinness or Murphy's is, for example. I don't know whether that's reflects the. Excuse me. It's getting to that time of the evening. If that reflects the amount of pale malt that might be in here.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, the description that put on the label for people that have never tried it before, but it combines rich flavours of dark bitter chocolate, coffee, and bonfire toffee, having a fruity citrus aftertaste. What do you think? If you just keep it on your tongue for a few moments before you swallow, and then wait for that CO2 to dissipate, you're left with a bit of what I think is a zest.
Yeah, Yep, there's definitely for a stout. Is that what you're calling it? A stout?
Yeah. What's your porter stout?
There is definitely a freshness in there. There's a kind of grassiness in there as well.
You don't tend to get that
Which
usually.
you don't tend to get, do you?
A porter
and I guess that must be the hops.
That's the post boil hops. That's the handful of hops I throw in when the water's cooled to about 80 degrees, and it just allows some of that flavour of the hops to soak into that wort.
That's absolutely marvellous. That's absolutely marvellous. Those sort of toffee and vanilla flavours are really quite strong. They're not subtle. They're definitely there.
This is what I call a fireside beer.
A fireside beer, yeah. That's really interesting.
On a winter's night.
You know, I'm not a huge fan of stouts, I have to say, but actually, in terms of drinkability, there's a lightness to this that I really like, and you know, I would drink that in a pub, Jono. You know,
thank you very much.
I would pay good money for this in a pub. I'd pay £4 a pint for that.
Would you?
Absolutely no bother.
Would you pay me £4 a pint for this one? So we're going to be doing over the course of the series. Each week we're going to try and do at least one home crafted hero, but we need your help here because obviously we can't produce enough different beers to do.
And we don't want to taste our own homebrew. We want to taste
other people's. And we're calling it home crafted beer.
We will be crowning our home crafted hero of 2019, and we will hopefully be announcing a prize to go along with that.
We will indeed.
So we do want you to get in touch with us either in the comments below, thanks Jono, or through the Facebook page. If you get in touch with us, we'll let you know where you can send a beer to. And if you're very lucky, then perhaps you'll feature in one of the next episodes.
Indeed.
So, I mean, are we going to score this, Jono? I mean, you know.
Well, obviously, I'm going to give it 10 out of 10. Well, that's because I'm biased.
I think it would be unfair to score these home.
No, we're not going to score our own.
But I would say the bar has been set very, very high.
Well, I'm glad you think
you know,
so.
Jono, I've tried a lot of your homebrews over the years, but I would say that is absolutely exceptional. So well done.
Well, there's more where that came from. And on that note.
Well, this brings us to the end of our first episode. So if you've stuck with us through the goodness knows how many minutes that have come before now,
thank you very much for watching.
You are a hero. And we hope you'll leave a message below. We hope you'll subscribe to the channel, and we'll hope you'll you'll share.
And tell us what you're drinking. Tell us the beers that you like. And as we said earlier,
do that.
We may well try and feature them in a future episode.
That would be super, wouldn't it?
It would.
So get in touch and
Slange.
Slange.